Well, tonight, Louisville-based Papa John's Pizza says its prices could be going up, but it's not because of higher costs for its ingredients. Instead, the founder, John Schnatter, is blaming President Barack Obama's health care reform law. WHAS 11's Joe Arnold is joining us live tonight. He's on the story about the possible economic fallout of the law. So Joe, it would be easy to tie this to the price of cheese and maybe tomatoes, but it's a little deeper than that.
No, they're drawing it directly to the health care law, Doug. You know, we should point out that the Louisville pizza magnate John Schnatter did host the Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney at his Anchorage home a few months ago. But these comments, at least in the context of the political nature of them, did not come in a campaign sense. Instead, they were in response to a question during a conference call with shareholders.
Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
But it's not just tomatoes and cheese pizza lovers are paying for. Papa John Schnatter telling shareholders customers will have to pay more to fund the federal government's expansion of health care.
Our best estimate is that the Obamacare will cost about 11 to 14 cents per pizza or 15 or 20 cents per order from a corporate basis. To put that in perspective, our average delivery charge is $1.75 to $2.50, or about tenfold our estimated cost of the Obamacare to Papa John's.
The company's not explaining how it arrived at those figures. Schnatter says though he is not supportive of the Affordable Care Act, Papa John's business model is well suited to absorb the costs and pass it on via the sales of millions of pizzas every year. Under the law, companies with more than 50 full-time employees or an equivalent number of part-timers are required to provide health insurance to full-time workers or pay a $2,000 fine for every full-time worker after the first 30. Small businesses with fewer than 50 employees, like each of the individually owned Bear Nose Pizza restaurants in Louisville, are not required to provide insurance. But owners are still predicting higher costs.
The Affordable Care Act is going to increase costs to all businesses, and therefore it's going to domino, trickle down, whatever you're going to say. It's going to affect prices and costs everywhere.
Even for small businesses?
Even for small business. I mean, we're affected, you know, if a large manufacturer has got to provide health care, then they're going to put those costs down to us when they sell us their products.
I think there's a lot of misinformation that's being circulated, and there's also lack of information because it was such a political debate until the Supreme Court decision. And so I think now folks are struggling to say, okay, it's the law of the land, what's in the law?
Now, because Papa John's already provides health insurance for its full-time workers and allows the part-timers to also buy into the health insurance plan, it's really unclear right now how this law even affects Papa John's in the first place. We should point out that roughly 20% of Papa John's restaurants are owned by the company, the other 80% by local franchisees. The answer might be somewhere in that formula. Now, coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, a U of L economist is weighing in tonight on the Papa John's conference call and what the cost really is to companies and how that will translate to customers. Right now, live at Papa John's at 2nd and Liberty, Joe Arnold, WHAS 11 News.
Well, pizza probably is not the first thing you think of when you hear about President Barack Obama's health care reform law.
But here in town, Papa John's founder John Schnatter is bringing the pizza industry right into the health care debate now. WHAS 11's Joe Arnold is live at 2nd and Liberty with more on John Schnatter's stance and how businesses will be affected. Joe?
Hey, Doug and Claudia, these comments are actually igniting somewhat of a firestorm now. Twitter, Facebook, and some websites across the country. I don't know if it's quite Chick-fil-A caliber yet, but I should point out I listened to all of Schnatter's comments on that conference call to shareholders. It appears this is less of a political statement that he's making and more of a business one.
We're not in support of Obamacare like most businesses in our industry. But our business model and unit economics are about as ideal as you can get for a food company to absorb Obamacare.
And by absorb, John Schnatter means Papa John's will pass on the costs to customers, 11 to 14 cents per pizza. Supporters of the health care law say that's a small price to pay.
They're struggling to make ends meet, and to get coverage is a huge burden lifted. And it's also a burden lifted from all of us, because when individuals who are uninsured go get care, they tend to go to the emergency room or other places where they can't pay for that care.
Last month, McDonald's estimated the Affordable Care Act will cost each of its restaurants between $10,000 and $30,000 per year, a total of $400 million per year. But Papa John's appears to be the first corporation to reveal the cost to customers, and that impresses a local competitor.
In respect that he has the guts to explain how it's going to affect his bottom line in business.
Because each of the 14 local Bear Nose Pizza restaurants are individually owned, it appears the law's 50-employee trigger will not apply. But George Timmering says he expects increasing supplier costs to be one of a number of the health care law's domino effects for him.
If our competition has to provide their health care to all their employees, then we might have to do the same thing to remain competitive and get those top-notch employees.
A U of L economist says companies will not absorb the added costs, instead passing them on to consumers with higher prices and on to workers with lower wages.
And so if you're an employer, you hire a worker, maybe you're willing to spend $50,000 a year for a worker. Well, you don't really care if that goes to health insurance, if it goes to the worker, but you're going to spend $50,000 on that worker. So if health insurance premiums go up, worker gets less money.
You know, it's really actually unclear tonight why Papa John's would be having it cost more money to make each pizza, because they already offer health insurance for their full-time employees, about 2,000 or so. The other 14,000 are part-time workers, which the Congressional Budget Office, when I checked today, says is not subject to the Affordable Care Act. Live here at Papa John's at 2nd and Liberty, Joe Arnold, WHAS 11 News.